My name is Sandra Kwok. I'm the CEO and founder of 10 Power, and we are a certified Best in the World Benefit Corporation, working on bringing 100% renewables to 100% of humanity by the year 2050. And my personal goal in starting 10 Power is to create a regenerative path for international development that helps us get back on track with reversing climate change within my lifetime. I started 10 Power in 2015, and Haiti is our first market. Haiti is super close to the United States. It's about a 40-minute flight from Florida, but close to 70% of the population doesn't have access to electricity. And we are working on commercial scale solar project developments, and we're helping to source finance for these projects too. We work in conjunction with local partners with a gender empowerment lens. And when I was first starting 10 Power, I took a look at places with high energy poverty across the world. So on this map, you can see the more intensely red the color of the country, the more percentage of the population doesn't have access to electricity. So the dark red was close to 70% of the population lacks electricity, and Haiti is the only red dot in the Americas. And what's interesting about this map is that when you overlay solar generation potential, it's actually the places with the highest energy poverty that have the most abundant sunshine and solar resource. So it makes a lot of logical business sense that we could provide renewable energy access in these markets. But 10 Power really discovered that the big missing pieces were access to capital, access to finance, and then some project development and capacity building within these markets. And as we've witnessed with the pandemic, the communities that are already suffering the most from climate change, from poverty, from a lot of other compounding factors that they did not contribute to, but are experiencing the most impacts from, are also the communities that are most vulnerable to COVID-19. So we have really witnessed in Haiti, the lack of ability of people to social distance, the need for people who are living hand to mouth to continue working, and the lack of adequate medical resources for the community. And 10 Power, throughout the pandemic, we've really honed in on healthcare and helping businesses and institutions like hospitals providing healthcare to get onto renewables and get off of diesel generators, which are generating particulate matter, which impacts your lungs. And day-to-day, our operations are three-pronged. We focus on project development, so bringing in international best practices and codes and standards. We source finance for our projects so that our customers can pay back month over month, as opposed to having to have all of the capital up front for a solar installation. And we also are really focused on local partnerships and helping to foment the local ecosystems, training women and men from the community to be able to continue the operations maintenance as well as the installation of the solar systems. And our revenues as a social impact enterprise come from project developer fees, so a markup on the installation, labor, and equipment, and a portion of the solar loans that come back to 10 Power and get reinvested into future projects, and the rest of the interest goes back to the investors. So our fundraising journey really maps to this particular graphic, which you may be familiar with the Valley of Death in tech. But for social impact enterprises, there's a similar but even deeper and wider valley of death when it comes to fundraising. So what we have witnessed as a social impact enterprise is that in the beginning of impact investing, there wasn't as much early stage support. But in the last couple of years, fortunately, there are more and more angel impact investors. And so we were really fortunate to be able to raise startup stage capital to get investment from true angels with a halo over their head in the company, and to get some grants as a very early stage organization. And now that we're proven, we have some projects in the marketplace and we're really ready to hit scale. We were looking at the types of capital that were out there. And when we looked at other impact organizations, especially in renewable energy access, we saw that oftentimes they were creating a non-replicable process. So they would get a PRI, a program-related investment from a charity, maybe a one-time grant from, say, the Gates Foundation, coupled with USAID, And that would help them to get up to the level where they could start qualifying for multilateral finance from development banks. But it's not really a replicable process. It was normally a one-time deal that they were able to secure. And so we really started looking around to figure out, where is the Sandhill Road, where is the Silicon Valley style capital that we actually need to get these social impact enterprises up to scale, so that all of these businesses that are similar to 10 Power at our stage can actually hit that maturity that we need to hopefully one day be able to build completely regenerative capital markets. And the investment divestment movement has been happening. It's one of the largest movements in financial industry in the entire financial history, where people are taking their money out of industries that are creating climate change and out of industries that are supporting fossil fuel extraction. But on the other side of the divestment movement, we need to have an equal investment movement where we have a place to put our money into the values that we actually want to see realized in the world. And so what we're hoping to do with this Renewable Energy Access DAF is create a success story that others can follow, so that we can really start mobilizing a lot of capital going into impact enterprises and helping companies to actually reach maturity and hopefully one day participate in public markets. So what is a donor advised fund? Well, a donor advised fund, or DAF, is a philanthropic account that an individual, say in a windfall year when they're facing some tax liability, would create and receive immediate tax deductions in that year when they create the DAF. It's a very simple, straightforward instrument, and the capital in the DAF can compound at a tax-free rate. And so capital can be returned into the DAF, which enables more money to go to causes in the ideal world. DAFs are increasingly popular, but as we'll see a little later in this presentation, there are some issues with the way that DAFs are currently structured, because oftentimes that capital doesn't get deployed in a timely manner, and that's something that we're hoping to fix. Now, DAFs have been becoming more and more, just a more and more widely used asset. So contributions to DAFs between 2013 and 2018 increased by 86%. And currently, DAFs have about 120 billion or more in assets. So 3x growth in the last decade. And part of the reason for this is because they're just such a simple, straightforward, easy to set up instrument that provides maximum tax benefits to the philanthropic donor. And in addition to cash, the assets that can be contributed to DAFs are highly flexible. So stocks, non-publicly traded securities, property, crypto, as well as real estate. And the benefits of DAFs are, in addition to tax benefits, they create a channel for philanthropists to be able to really align their donations with what they want to see in the world. So being able to donate to either multiple charities, or also as a flexible instrument, being able to support impact first social enterprises that are creating replicable business models in the world that can hopefully achieve financial viability and scale, with the DAF acting as that initial catalytic capital. And some of the criticisms of traditional path DAFs that exist right now are that there's zombie philanthropy. So because there are not specific timeframes for distributing DAFs, oftentimes the capital will sit there. The donor to the DAF gets a tax break immediate in the year that they put the capital into the DAF. But there's actually a perverse incentive happening with a lot of traditional brokerages, where the brokerage is investing the capital in Wall Street and is able to make interest off of that money and charge fees on the DAF. And meanwhile, the donor has forgotten about it. And so oftentimes the capital is being used to perpetuate the same types of problems that it was initially donated to solve, which is the whole reason that the donor got a tax break in the first place. So there's a lot of capital sitting in DAFs that is not being distributed or allocated towards philanthropic, charitable, or impactful causes right now. Meanwhile, climate change is burning up planet Earth. COVID and other pressing issues like racial justice need to be addressed now. And so this stat from 2016 is indicative of the stagnation of capital that happens in DAFs, where 22% of DAFs in 2016 were not distributing grants at all. So our philosophy is that if we're able to demonstrate how DAFs can be done right and help share this message, that DAFs could really be a catalytic instrument for providing flexible growth capital for social impact enterprises to achieve scale, and to create a rotating corpus of capital that can continually be lent out to impact organizations that are really looking for this first loss soft capital stack. So in this diagram, you can see that impact investments from the DAF in the forms of grants and donations can be invested in below market investments. So in things like concessionary returns or guarantees. And then as those organizations that receive that capital achieve market rate returns, they're able to return capital back to the DAF. And then those investments can circulate again throughout the system. So it's possible to leverage capital in a DAF with 10x or 20x impact over time, as opposed to just going into a one-time grant. And especially for early stage impact enterprises, DAFs could really provide the bottom of the capital stack, which is catalytic for helping to achieve growth, maturity, and scale. So capital in blended stacks is typically at the bottom of the stack. So it's soft capital that is also called first loss capital. So here are a couple of different examples of the types of roles that DAF capital could play as concessionary capital and blended capital stacks. So it could help bring in market rate capital. It could help secure investments from retail investors. So an example of that would be for 10 Power, if we're looking at doing a solar hospital project in Haiti, and we have a solar crowdfunder that's interested in working with us, we can use our renewable energy access DAF to underwrite the loans that are being given to us by the crowdfunders. So we'd be protecting the retail investors' investment if anything went wrong, if there was a natural disaster in Haiti, if there was a coup, if for some reason our customer couldn't make payments for a period of time, we would be able to make sure there was no gap in the payments for the DAF, and that would help us to get that customer to maturity, get that grant seasoned, get the loan seasoned, and be able to help us grow our portfolio so that each individual project has less impact on the whole portfolio. So blended finance has been utilized a lot in sustainable international development. About 142 billion has been leveraged through blended finance stacks, but most of these deals are in the 10 million to 25 million range. So for smaller scale investments, DAFs can really play that critical role in providing the soft layer of the blended capital stack to help social impact organizations to grow. Now, jumping into our story with the Renewable Energy Access DAF, we launched a DAF with Impact Assets, which is a 501c3, specifically for renewable energy access. Of course, the contributions create tax benefits for the donors. We're using the DAF right now to underwrite risky investments in the Haiti market where we're currently operating, and we're looking at expanding out into other markets where people lack access to electricity. So far, we have 75K in our DAF, and it's really easy for people to contribute to this DAF or even transfer money if you have another DAF to move it over to this DAF. And what's different about this one is we're putting the capital to immediate use. We're returning it back to the fund, and we're really hoping to pioneer this success story that others can follow. So a little bit of background on 10 Power. We are square in that valley of death for social impact startups right now. We've raised a total of 812K to date. We have executed over $1 million worth of solar projects in Haiti so far. And we found this instrument. We're really excited to share it because we hope that it can help us to get up to the scale to start attracting World Bank type capital, minimum check size 10 to 25 million. So getting us up to that level where we're able to start getting those larger check sizes and taking on project finance for our projects is right where we are right now. And in Haiti, our size of market that we've estimated working there in the last 5 years is 675 million. We currently have a pipeline of projects worth 100 million. And our bigger goal is to really help Haitian businesses and Haitian individuals to achieve their highest potential and to create a regenerative and sustainable economy for Haiti. I believe in the embodied potential for Haiti. And this is a story that I actually just learned recently about my own history. My dad is from South Korea, and he was telling me that when he was a little boy, South Korea was the second poorest country in the entire world. And he actually had a baby sister who died because their family didn't have enough food to eat. And seeing how far that South Korea came in just one generation. You know, now South Korea is really leading the world in terms of green infrastructure, major global brands, technology development, and seeing within my dad's generation how South Korea was able to go from the bottom of the stack to the top of the stack. I really believe that places like Haiti, which today are considered the least developed countries on the planet, will have the potential to be the leaders in sustainable development because they can adopt renewable energy, they can adopt cutting edge technologies immediately, starting now. Here are a couple of examples of the projects that we've completed so far in Haiti. We put solar on water purification facilities for another impact organization called HAITI. DLO means water in Creole. And for this organization, we have created over 200,000 in cumulative savings versus the diesel generators that they were previously using. We have supported their enterprise, which employs 100 plus employees, around 37% women. They also provide water for free for schools and school children. And each of their water distribution centers also resells water at a below market price, in turn supporting over 600 micro enterprises, majority women led. And then we have close to 1 million pounds of carbon dioxide reduction from these projects, equivalent to over 11,000 trees planted and grown for 10 years. One of our flagship projects in Haiti was solar for UNICEF Haiti's headquarters. We generated over $3 million in cumulative savings for UNICEF. UNICEF's social impacts are pretty obvious. They're doing amazing things for the community in terms of health, hygiene, prevention of cholera, and the safety and education of children. And then this project created over 18 million pounds of carbon dioxide reduction, equivalent to over 200,000 trees planted and grown for 10 years. This project actually was the largest solar installation plus storage project on any UNICEF base in the entire world when we completed the project in 2018. And we were personally excited, as well as the UN, to be demonstrating multiple UN Sustainable Development Goals in Haiti. Namely, the goals that we focus on are number 1, no poverty, number 5, gender equality, number 7, renewable energy access for all, and number 13, climate action now. And I'm really proud of my team. During the pandemic, we actually completed a project on the island of La Gonave, which is off the coast of Haiti. It's right there in the mouth of Haiti. And this project was in conjunction with Give Power, which is Solar City and Tesla's nonprofit. And this solar powered water desalination plant is now providing enough clean drinking water for up to 40,000 people. And I just learned yesterday, it's pretty much at capacity right now in terms of the water that's being distributed to the community. And the business model here was that there was a $258,000 grant that funded the project. And then the water is sold at a slightly below market rate, completely employing local people so that the capital that's coming back into the system is used for operations, maintenance, and upkeep. So it's basically a community run resource, and there's a budget in there to make sure that all of the assets are well maintained and that it continues to provide value over time. With this project, 10 Power also grew our Women Solar Installer Training Program in partnership with Haiti Tech University and the Solar Electric Light Fund. And we're really excited to be providing opportunities for local women to participate in the green economy that we're helping to build in Haiti. And just a little sneak peek at some of our upcoming projects. We are currently working on the engineering phase for a solar microgrid for Haiti's frontline COVID response hospital. This hospital is really an institution in Haiti. They were founded in 1983 in response to the AIDS crisis, and they brought the AIDS reinfection rate from over 80% down to below 10% in 10 years in Haiti. So they have an incredible track record of providing critical public health services, dealing with pandemics, epidemics. And so we're really proud to be working with them towards getting their operations onto solar. We're also working with Haiti Medicine, which is a Haitian-owned vaccine distributor, and they currently only have enough electricity to store non-refrigerated vaccines. So you can imagine with the COVID vaccines coming out and needing to be refrigerated at sub-zero temperatures, how crucial it's going to be to have consistent electricity to make sure that the vaccines get to all the people who need them the most. And we're really looking to create and share the success story of what we've done so far with our DAF. And so we are preparing to launch a website full of resources right now, which I'm happy to share with you early since you're here on this webinar today. And one of those resources is a white paper that we've drafted about our DAF process. And I'll put a link to the white paper in the chat. I'll also share it out over email afterwards. And on the website that we're launching, we're also going to be publishing paperwork for the recoverable grant term sheet and agreement that we've launched for our DAF. And really, I feel in the spirit of social impact, there's no such thing as competition. It's all about co-opetition. So helping other organizations that are working on making the world a better place, helping them to succeed and grow. And really, you know, if they win, we all win. So we're really excited to share that with the world. I'll be coming out soon. And yeah, Heather, I see your comments about Flint. And we are actually honing our focus on our next market right now domestically. So, so one of the areas that I'm looking at is working with tribal reservations. And so we have a potential project in the works with the Northern Cheyenne tribe and the Standing Rock Sioux tribe in partnership with the Covenant Solar Initiative. And they're in a spot right now that the DAF would be so ideal for. So Covenant has identified $750,000 worth of solar panels that are being sold for about 25% of what solar panels are normally sold for, but they're still waiting on funding from the DOE for this project. So they're in this stopgap where they have this amazing opportunity. There's DOE funding that's coming out next year, but this panel deal may go away. So this is kind of an ideal type of situation where we would want to leverage the DAF to help an organization or a project get up and running. And so these are the types of projects that we're looking at right now. I'm really interested in working more domestically on social justice and environmental justice issues. So I'm getting ready to expand. And if any of you are interested in collaborating with the Renewable Energy Access DAF, there's a $500 minimum. If you want to take advantage of the 2020 tax benefits, the deadline is December 31st. And I'll put a link to our investment one sheet in the chat here as well. I'm sending it out afterwards. And we really see solar as a crucial building block for all these other aspects of regenerative and sustainable development, from purification of clean water to providing access to global markets and educational seminars like what we're doing today. So we're really excited to be on this journey with you. And thank you for being here today to learn more about our work.